Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to the northeast of England and we're going to do what I believe is my third review from probably one of the best known breweries in this part of England. So we're going to go to the Wylam Brewery, who are originally from Wylam, but I do believe their main brewing operation is in Newcastle now, and we're having a taste of one of their core beers. So this one is called the Häxan. It's described as being a black Witbier. As far as I can remember, I've never reviewed a black Witbier on the channel for you before, and it comes in at 6.2%. The other interesting point about this beer is that Häxan is actually a silent Swedish-Danish horror film. So I'm not sure exactly if the guys that own the brewery are fans of this or exactly why they've named it after this, because it doesn't say on the website at all. So just an unusual thing. It caught my eye in the shop mainly because of the name, and I know that Wylam is a good brewery, so I kind of thought, well, why not? Let's have a little go at this one. Of course, a black wit beer isn't a style that you're going to come across too often, so it should make for an interesting review, and I hope you guys enjoy it. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Wylam. No doubt there will be some more in the near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city or state, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Wylam then. So the Wylam Brewery was founded by John Boyle and Robin Layton in the small village of Wylam to the north of Newcastle back in the year 2000. So these guys actually are fairly well established, I have to say. They're probably one of the older craft breweries actually that you're going to come across in this region. But both men had actually taken early retirement. John had been a computer engineer and he met Rob, a former sea captain and avid home brewer. So John fixed Rob's PC, which took a long time, and apparently the pair of them agreed a payment of 5 gallons of the Witbier that they'd been drinking together for sorting out this computer, and then it just kind of spiralled out of control from there. So Robin was really interested in barley wines, stouts and sour beers, which weren't very popular, particularly in the northeast of England at that time, and both he and John wanted to see these beers introduced in their local pubs. So they got together, they produced their first beer, which was called Landlord's Choice, in August of 2000, and the beer became very, very popular through word of mouth, and ever since then the brewery's just kind of kept growing and growing. So they moved premises to Häxan-on-Wall in 2006, and in 2016 they moved once again to a new site at the Palace of Arts in Exhibition Park in Newcastle, which is installed with a 30-barrel brewhouse, and it also has a brewery tap room and restaurant there as well. It looks really, really cool when you have a look at the pictures of it. It's this kind of old building that looks as if it would have had an observatory on the top of it at one point, but really, really nice looking place, and hopefully I can go and actually check it out at some point, because I really should do that when I'm actually in this part of England. So you might see a video from there at some point in the fairly near future. But as I've said, my experiences with this brewery have been very, very popular. There was a period, the guys in Glug in Newcastle were telling me that there was a period where you couldn't actually get these Wylam beers, or the popular beers, the core beers were quite difficult to get. It was mainly all the different experimental ones, and apparently there was quite a few of the fans of the brewery weren't so happy with that. But now that they've got their capacity back up, they actually are producing the things like Jake Head and Rattlesnake Jake, and all of the, or Jake the Rake, sorry, it's called. They're producing all of these beers that were really quite popular again. It must have just been to do with capacity issues and things like that, so you can get all these kind of popular Wylam beers again. And this is one of their core beers actually, which I found quite unusual, because you know, black wit beer must first of all be quite a style that's quite difficult to get right, and as I say, it's not one that you would often find many breweries putting in their core range. So that tells you about something, that the confidence that the guys at Wylam actually have in this beer. But yeah, that's all you need to know about the brewery for just now. As I always say, the links to the brewery website and stuff are in the description below if you want to learn some more. So let's get on to the tasting of this beer itself. So like I said, this one comes in at 6.2%. There you can see the guys working away on, it looks like a roof or something like that. Or, oh no, sorry, it's people being hung, I think, actually. I didn't realise that. It's people being hung on this, on the log there, which is quite interesting. So I guess maybe that does play into this kind of horror theme that they have. There's the Wylam Brewery bottle cap on this one. It just says undefined, unfiltered, and yeah, 2 UK units produced at the Wylam Brewery, Palace of Arts, Exhibition Park in Newcastle. So without further ado then, let's get this guy open and we'll get on with the tasting. Really looking forward to this. Nice bit of smoky opening on this one, and we'll get it out and into the glass. And I tell you something, you can smell some of that banana yeasty character coming out of this beer already. Sugar up the last little bit, see if we can get some head on it, and there you are. So yeah, when it comes to a beer, a black wit beer, kind of is in colour what you would expect. So if I hold this up to the light, you can really smell those banana sort of nutmeggy things coming off this beer. That's a really strong aroma actually. But yeah, with this one you can see there's a quarter finger or a third finger of a frothy dark beige tan head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. There's a few little bits and bobs of sediment floating around in the bottom there. In terms of colour though, I think it's fair to describe this one as a sort of really dark mahogany kind of rosewood colour. There's a bit of a coppery tinge around the edge of it. I'm not sure how well you guys can actually see that on the camera, but in terms of colour I think dark mahogany rosewood with a little bit of a coppery edge. I think that's probably the best descriptor I'm going to be able to give you of this beer, but you can really get some of these sort of banana, bubblegum and sort of nutmeggy notes coming off this beer as you move it around. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on. Yeah. So yeah, as I'm saying, you've got that typical banana, bready, yeasty quality that you expect from a Belgian yeast strain with this one. But there's almost a kind of medicinal herbal quality to this beer as well, which is quite interesting. It definitely reminds me of cough syrup. There's one of these kind of almost, I'm trying to think what herb that is, but there's a really distinctive herbal quality to this one, and it kind of mixes in with that bubblegum note that the beer has. At the same time though, you can pick up a bit of sweet caramel. There's definitely a little bit of sweet, slightly toasted caramel in there. I do wonder if they've maybe used Groot in this beer rather than hops, because it reminds me of a couple of the beers I've had from Holland and Belgium that use the Groot rather than the hops, which is really interesting. And of course they use these things to sort of balance out the sweet flavours from the malt. But yeah, with this one, I would say, yeah, it's a really unusual aroma this. Take a little bit of extra time and just enjoy this. It's a really almost candied note. It's got some sort of cough syrupy kind of feel to it. There's a little bit of herbal quality, banana, bubblegum, yeasty notes like I was saying. There is a little bit of a grassy hop to it and maybe a wee bit of citrus. And I don't know if there's some kind of candied red fruit in there as well. But there's a whole host of things going on in this one. It's got an almost really cough medicine sort of quality to the aroma. But you get a lot of that Belgian doughy, bready, yeasty quality that you expect. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just enjoy the aroma of this one before you get stuck in. I'm not really picking up much of the roasted black malt, which will be in this one, which is what I was expecting. But yeah, without further ado then, let's have a go at this beer. So this is the Häxan, a black wit beer from Wylam Brewery at Exhibition Park in Newcastle. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål. That's actually pretty nice. The complexity of this beer, you're definitely getting out on the aftertaste rather than the impact, if you like. That's definitely one of the things I'll say about this beer. And that sort of herbal, kind of medicinal quality that the beer has, it really, as you just let the beer linger, and as you let the aftertaste develop, that's when you really start to get that out of this beer. So yeah, with this one, you can feel that kind of bready character, that just blankets the middle of your palate. And on top of that, you start to get these thicker, doughy, yeasty notes. You can feel some of the banana, bubblegummy flavours just sitting there. It's almost like you've got a kind of ring just between the very edge of your tongue and the very centre. And that's where you can feel these sort of banana, bubblegummy, bready sort of notes coming out of this beer. The bready character blankets the tongue, and then on top of that you get these sort of banana, bubblegummy, yeasty notes, which is really interesting. Right in the middle of your palate you can feel a sort of slightly sweet caramel, and as that flavour mellows out you start to feel the kind of roasted black malt pushing out of this one. So in terms of the malt base, this beer is pretty complex actually, so just pay attention with that actually and see what you think about it. But for me, it is actually quite a nice beer, this. How often I would drink it, I don't know. I mean, for me, a lot of these dark beers, really I like having them as tasters. I like to taste loads of different ones. The IPAs and things like that I would session. A German Dunkel, of course, is probably the darkest beer that I would consider sessioning, you know. But with this one, it is actually, you know, quite drinkable, which is interesting. You know, it's one of their core range beers. I'm not sure exactly what you would pair this beer with, to be honest, in terms of food and stuff like that, because it's quite an unusual combination of flavours, but it works, and I do like it. It's one of these ones that in a way catches me a little bit off guard, because it really is quite unusual, to be honest. But as a beer tuber, you know, that's what you want. You want things that are going to make you think a little bit. But yeah, that's nice. I have to admit, I just like how everything in this beer goes together. It's got quite a lot of complexity, this one, so let it mellow out a little bit, do different things, and just, you know, just enjoy it, basically. It's a good beer. So with this one, I would say in terms of the hoppy side of things, in the back corners of the palate, there's definitely a little bit of earthiness. As you come further forward along the side of your tongue, it's more herbal. There's a little bit of a lighter kind of floral note at the front corners of the palate, then round the very front curve of the tongue, it's a little bit lighter and sort of grassy as well. Yeah, the fruity notes in this one are quite interesting as well. If you just go behind the front curve of the palate, that's of course where you get that little oily bubble where all these kind of fruity esters come out of the beer. And with this one, there is a little element of a citrusy note from the kind of grassy hops. It does have a little bit of a, I don't want to say quite lemongrassy, but it has a little bit of that, it just has a little bit of that nice, that grassy, citrusy quality to it. But you can feel some kind of candied red fruits in there as well. But yeah, definitely some candied red fruit there. It reminds me a little bit of, it's almost like these little heart-shaped sweets you get in the Haribo Star Mix, but it has a little bit more of a kind of medicinal quality to it, which is it's interesting. As I say, this beer, it really has that herbal kind of cough medicine-y quality to it, but it works for it, and that malt base that it has, everything in this one just goes together. You know, for a 6.2% beer, it's bloody complex, so it's one that will definitely kind of keep you on your toes and keep you interested. As I say, the thing that really strikes me with this one, I was like, you know, what the hell kind of food do you pair this with, to be quite honest? You know, is it a dessert beer? Is it one that you drink with, one that you would drink with a steak, or, you know, something like that? I'm really not sure what you could pair this beer with, because it is just, for me at least, it's that unusual. But I'll tell you something, it works, and that's, you know, that's what you want. That's what craft brewing's all about, is just trying different things. You know, the black IPA was a style of beer that nobody ever really thought would work, but it does, and when you do it well, it can be bloody good. This beer, I think, in that kind of sense, is one, I think that fits into the same category. A black wit beer isn't one that you're going to come across quite often, but for me, this one certainly works. But I would say it probably is kind of, if you like herbal flavours and stuff, you're going to enjoy this one. If you don't like herbal and kind of medicinal flavours, you're not going to enjoy this. In terms of the Belgian styles, I'd probably compare this one a little bit to the likes of Pater's beers, and some of the Dubels can have these kind of herbal flavours. That's probably the closest descriptor in terms of beer that you're going to get to this one. It's got a little bit of that herbal kind of medicinal quality that some Dubel beers can have. Of course, the Quadruple, they become a lot sweeter and a lot more boozy and stuff. This one is more kind of like a Pater's beer, a dark Pater's beer, or a Brun beer. Something like that. So that, if you like the Belgian Brun beers, if you like the probably if you like Leffe Brun, actually, you might quite enjoy this one. This one's a bit more stronger in its flavour, right enough. But if you like these kind of Pater's beers, Brun beers, and some of the Dubels that have the more herbal qualities, I think this is a beer that you will quite enjoy. As I say though, I don't know what you would pair this with, so it's interesting in that regard. For me, I would put this beer down as a kind of standalone taster beer, but it certainly works, and in terms of the quality, it's pretty good. In terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, I would say, yeah, it's on the lighter side of mid-bodied. Carbonation's quite smooth, which I get is kind of unusual for a Belgian beer style, actually. I always find the Belgian beers do have a little bit of that kind of, they've usually got a good bit of carbonation to them, which makes them quite refreshing. This one is refreshing, but it's more due to the fact that the mouthfeel is a little bit wet. It's got a little bit of oily quality to it, but the refreshing quality of this one is due to the wet mouthfeel rather than anything else. I would say there's a good bit of bitterness in this one from the malt base, actually. As I say, that kind of mellows out as the beer goes on. There's not too much sweetness from it. It's more of a kind of herbal quality to this. There's a little bit of bitterness from the herbal notes, and you can get that from the hoppy side of the beer and from the kind of malt base as well. There's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this one. There's a little bit of juicy fruity character, so the mouthfeel overall is quite bitter, both from the herbal side and from the malty side, and a little bit from the hops as well. It's just, I mean, it's an interesting beer. I've not come across one that's quite like this before. As I say, it reminds me a little bit of the Belgian Bruins, some of the Dubels as well, and things like this. If you like herbal flavours, you're really going to enjoy this beer. If you're not, I don't think you are going to enjoy this one that much. Maybe go for the Jakehead or one of their other beers. It's definitely one of the more unusual ones that they've produced, I think, but for me, it works. And you know, just be open to new flavours and try new things, because that's what this beer really is going to give you. But in terms of quality, I think they've done a good job of this one, and they've certainly produced a beer that's kept me pretty interested for this review. This is probably one of my more rambly reviews, right enough, but I think they've done a nice job of this one, so it's been cool to review it for you here on the channel. So yeah, so until the next time, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Check out my social media. Make sure you have a look at the different beers from Wylam. Go and check out their place in Exhibition Park if you get the chance. Please, you know, like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. It's always interesting to hear about beers like this, which are a little bit more unusual. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Wylam, and of course let me know some other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me try. So this one was the Häxan, a black wit beer, a beer that certainly kept me on my toes, from the Wylam Brewery, originally from Wylam in the northeast of England, but now based down near Newcastle. So thank you once again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. Slanted just now.